India on paper is 21.23% forest, which means more than 1/5 of our country is supposed to be forested. But did you know that less than 5% of it is protected forest? The remaining last swaths of land are degraded or are not protected, which means that the forest department is non-existent there.
So nature will not give us any judgments, only consequences. In the northeast over here, which everybody lauds as being the last repository of all our biodiversity, well, it is just that much away from being completely and totally annihilated. Because unlike the plains, here it's not just a question of deforestation. Gravity will become our enemy over here because all the water will come using gravity like a cannon. The mud will be sliding down, the spanking new roads we built will be washed away. And it astounds me that people can't see this.
Assam specifically is really going to be hit by climate change. All the forecasts, all the models predicting the changes that are going to come, I think it's up to 70 or 80% of the tea-growing regions would disappear. Just no longer viable for tea. So you need to make these systems adaptable to any changes.
The impacts of climate change are going to very democratically destroy everybody's life. It's not just a question of water, it's also waterborne diseases. Your lungs are the only organ actually which are outside your body. Because every time I take in that poison, it's on the inside. So everybody's feeling the impact of the problem, but they have not made the connections.
We need to really think about the connection between species loss and how we're using the land, which is only 1/3 of the earth, right? The terrestrial land, the rest is ocean. So it's very finite in amount.
I think there isn't a shadow of doubt that my generation, born in 1947, has failed this country, has failed this planet. And we've taken the heritage and we have repeated what the East India Company did to India, my generation is doing to the next generation. And I don't think history will remember us well for that.
I once asked a Cornell professor of natural resources, if there was one determinant of reviving species and biodiversity, what would it be? And he said, large intact forest and zero footprint.
So once you start looking at them as living things, then you start noticing things, When the sun is out, the leaves will be at a certain angle. When the sun is gone, the leaves will be at a different angle. Every new leaf comes out and figures out its direction.
Environment degradation will lead to social unrest. Social unrest will lead to law and order situation, and at that point in time, even the most wealthiest of the people are not going to be immune to it.
Your government should invest more for young school education and for infrastructure development, for educate the farmer how to access the market, how to make new opportunity for their livelihoods.
If I was the Prime Minister of India, my ambition wouldn't be to jump up GDP. My ambition would be that when a child looks up, he sees a blue sky. Because you cannot see blue skies unless you invest in public transport. You cannot see blue skies unless you put punitive taxes on private transport, because every car is a thermal plant.
When people want change, politicians have to change. So if the main agenda that a person is seeking for or a population is seeking for is healthy forests so that rivers flow, no political leader who doesn't have that as number one on their agenda point, he's never going to get elected.
I think the new generation needs to take out that time and get really introduced to the nature around them. Hear the sounds of birds, hear the sounds of rustling of leaves, because each will have its own character. The bamboo rustles in a different way. Other plants, teak, will rustle in another way, and you have to introduce that also in the way you experience nature. Nature cannot be experienced through Facebook, cannot be experienced through handbooks. as beautiful as they are as important, but it's not enough.
Nature is very, very powerful, but it has to be bootstrapped. And so what young people who want to get into conservation, I think, have to think about is what are the tipping points that we can create that can catalyze conservation of threatened species. Don't work for anybody, work for biodiversity is what I say. Get out there and just stay, as an activist and find the funding and be in the field. I see a lot of people working in offices, young people, and to me that's the greatest tragedy, just sitting at your computer for 12 hours, Research is there, catch yourself up on the research, but don't get stuck there, I think you really have to, we have to start moving towards action.
The good news is that nature is self-repairing. It's not asking us to go out and plant a tree. We don't know where to plant it, we don't know which species to plant, but you see that dragonfly and you see the bees that are flying around and the birds, they're the gardeners of Eden. They will fix this planet, but not if my generation continues to believe that we have become the gods that we have invented.